O'Neill, 2 L's. I serve the SGC under a General Hammond.
We're explorers. You see, we're from another planet.
The unstable vortex of a forming wormhole. Kawoosh.
Indeed.
Hello interwebs and welcome back to another episode of the Kawoosh podcast. I am Arne and I'm joined as always by
Evie. Hi.
And today we are talking about episode 12 of the first season of SG1. And this one has the very imaginative title, Fire and Water.
It sounds a bit like the title you come up with, like right as you're handing it in. Like, I forgot to name this.
What is really symbolic and sounds really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, the show opens with Walter Herman. Well, at this point he's not named yet, but our favorite gate technician coming in to bring Hammond the results of some scans of a planet. And right at that time there is an off-world activation, so they rush to the gate control room. There is no one due back, but the incoming code says it is SG1, so they open the iris. O'Neill, Carter and Teal'c rush out of the gate. They are soaking wet even though they are wearing their desert fatigues. They are in clear shock. They like fall down tired, and the doctor comes in and she tells them they're in shock. And Hammond asks, "Where is Jackson?" And they tell him he didn't make it. He's dead.
Dun dun dun. Which makes for the very first Daniel is dead scare, which is, at this point in time, it's still shocking, but it becomes kind of a running joke in the series.
Well, he isn't really dead, is what we're going to find out.
I know, but that's usually the case, because otherwise he wouldn't be coming back. But I kind of want to start a Daniel is dead tally now, because
you've got a lot of tallies going on.
Yeah, the problem is I keep tossing my notes when I'm done with them, so maybe this is not a very good system. At least you have your laptop.
I have a laptop.
Yes, you're very sophisticated. You're very sophisticated.
It's a great system.
I'm old. I have pen and paper.
We cut to credits, and when we arrive, when we come back to the series, we are in the medical bay, and Dr. Fraser is checking up on the team.
And I know it's supposed to be heavy, but all my notes are just along the lines of buff nurse is buff. Like, there's an extra in there, and I really think they just
here, shove towels into backpacks, really buff-like.
I think they just messed up, and they didn't have any nurses, and they just took one of the soldiers, and nobody's going to notice, and it just looks.
He has arms like this. Nobody's gonna. On the other hand, if he has to get people out of bed.
I'm not saying nurses can't be buff. It's the Kronk vibe is very high, and I was really distracted for a second. Anyway.
Yeah. The doctor walks up to Carter, who is still in shock. She's shivering and trembling. And then when Fraser asks how it all happened, Carter says he screamed, there was a fire, and he screamed. And the doctor gives her an extra blanket and walks over to the other two. Teal'c apparently doesn't want to have his blood pressure taken, and she excuses him, and even Jack is reacting weirdly. He reacts heavily to a pen light, seems to be photosensitive, and she excuses him too. And when she looks back at them as they walk away, she has this really look on her face that she doesn't really buy. There's something wrong. She senses there's something off about them.
It's a very simple scene in a way, but it gives us a couple of things. Like, first, they all react to shock differently. Teal'c doesn't want to be coddled, and he doesn't want to be, he just wants to be on his own. Mm-hmm. Jack is just sitting there trying to get through it. And Carter is basically the only one really sitting with her emotions. And then you have the doctor, who indeed is getting these first hints of, something is off here.
So next we go to their debriefing, and they are interviewed separately, but it is intercut.
Which I love this interview formats when they ask questions and they intercut between the crew or the team. I really love that.
Like to show that they're giving the same questions and they answer. Yeah. Well, in this case they answer pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, which is also cool.
But the editing is really cool. You have these shots of the TV screen because there's a camera filming the interview, and It's really well done. They tell the story of how they went through the gate, and ended up on what seemed to be like a uninhabited volcanic planet. And then they tell how Daniel was caught in a fire, and there was a blast that engulfed him, and the rest jumped into a nearby lake, and that's how they survived. And Hammond says at the end of all the briefings that he wants to send a team back to get the body, but Jack reacts immediately. He says the area is too volatile to go back. So Hammond goes down the stairs and comes across the doctor. She tells him they are still in shock and they are clearly suffering from some form of PTSD. But Hammond thinks the best thing to do is to put them right back into the action.
Which, I just wonder, was that standard military tactics in the 90s? Nowadays, they don't just toss you back after traumatic experiences,
I do
they?
think that back then they may think like you have to face your fears and overcome them, and that's going to be, in the short run, the best solution.
But even in the World Wars, they knew about shell shock and they sent you home.
Yes.
But is that more for drafted people? I don't know.
That's a
is
good
anybody in the
question.
military who can answer this for us? What is the
I can
usual? You
ask-
weren't in the
No,
military.
but I can ask Ben. He was a Marine.
Yeah.
I can ask.
You have cool friends.
Ben, if you're watching this, let me know. Or Julie, I know you've been liking the posts when I promote this. So if you watch this, ask Ben.
Are you just sneakily testing if they watch this?
Yes. Anyway, so the doctor disagrees firmly and gets Hammond to agree to give them at least some time off before he puts them back into action. So the next day they have a funeral in the gate room with an active gate. So we have the wavy light on all the walls.
I asked you how they did that effect. I remember you explaining to me that they probably did that with like a light and then reflective thingies on a ventilator going like... And it's a funeral scene. Like, you mean to tell me all these people like, okay, now look in distress and sad. Ignore the lamp.
I probably explained it a lot funnier than it was in real life.
Still,
But
sometimes acting has to be so,
just keep a straight face.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
acting.
and I already said this, but these are such good actors. Like, the small things they do with their face and stuff, it's like,
They
it's
really sell it as
Mm-hmm.
a real funeral. Like, we know that Daniel isn't dead. Well, it's gonna be shown later on, but they do really go for it. They do the whole spiel. They fold the flag, they give it to Jack, and then Jack hands it to Teal'c, and he salutes. And then after that, we even get a trumpet blowing the last post, and then Carter and O'Neill take a wreath and they push it through the gate, while Hammond says a nice goodbye.
Which, again, they're trying to be very serious and sad about handing this wreath to the gate, and you just know that just outside is somebody standing trying to take it from them, because, okay, and here's where the special effect starts. Also, we have to talk about the speech. Because Jack literally says, Daniel was our conscience. And I'm like, I'm sorry, he was your what? Really? Because if we're honest, Daniel is more like either the devil's advocate or like the little demon that sits on your shoulder. Like, I mean...
So far, he's also been a little bit opportunistic.
Yeah, and looking back on it later, I wrote down in my ending notes, I'm just gonna jump on. Like, he said he's our moral compass, and I do feel like it's interesting because from a writer standpoint, that's what Daniel is supposed to be in the team. Because everybody else is military. Everybody else has this very clear-cut, militaristic, kind of opportunistic view, and he's supposed to be the human side of that. But I do feel that by this point in the story, that's no longer applicable, because first, he has his whole thing with his wife going on, but also he gets very distracted by shiny scientific things, and then he sort of forgets his humanity in that, I feel. But also, Jack isn't really this very hardened military person, and Carter is hard, and Teal'c has like...
But like you say, he's the moral compass, but Teal'c also has a very
exactly
big moral compass. He has a very easy identifiable way that he sees the world. And as you said, Jack is not the typical military kind. He's very flippant. which sometimes can be a little problematic because his character will make light of almost anything.
I just feel like this, it was written episodic almost, maybe this season.
Probably,
And
yeah.
then but when you get to this point, it's no longer applicable. Like they may, I don't know. I felt like,
I know what you mean. Like the speech is written like his function in the team
Yeah.
is being the moral compass, even though it isn't always shown the way, because they clearly always go for this is the story we want to tell, and this. I think they write story first, character second.
I just feel like maybe in the movie he was the moral compass.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah, because he's the one who convinces Jack not to blow up the nuke on the planet and destroy the gate. So I get where they're coming from.
Yeah.
The problem is that the stories don't really show that.
Yeah, I can totally understand that he started out that way, but at this point, then
And
again,
yeah.
you know, you try to be nice at funerals. I just wanted to
True.
point that out. Sorry, sorry.
Anyway, then we cut to Daniel waking up in some.
You mean he's alive?
He's alive, yeah, and he's in some kind of underwater base, and that's where. And he looks around, confused, and that is clearly where the act break was.
Yeah, and it was probably a lot more impactful back when everybody really thought, really? Really? He's dead?
And he had to wait until the commercials were done before it continued. We cut to Jack's home, where they're doing the wake. I think this is the first time we visit his home, actually.
No, he talks about how his wife left him and stuff.
Right, in the very first episode, he went there
But
with
this
Daniel.
is the first time Teal'c is at the house,
Yeah,
and
because-
also
yeah.
Carter.
Carter and Teal'c arrive, and Teal'c has a hat to hide.
Teal'c has a
his,
hat, and I don't know where Carter got that dress, but it's weird. Maybe it's just because I'm always seeing her in army fatigues.
She is one of those characters who looks out of place when she's not in her usual uniform.
Yeah,
because
I
we're
don't
so
know.
used to it.
Yeah.
When she's in civic clothes, she looks odd.
Maybe it's just the 90s, because even if Daniel is out of base, I'm like, what are you wearing?
Oh, but yeah, that's
Maybe it's
that's
just-
and on Teal'c everything's funny. Because,
Yeah.
But I think that was kind of the joke they were
I
going
know.
for.
Anyway, it's not funny. It's awake. It's sad, guys.
Yeah, and they're
It's-
telling stories about Daniel, and Jack offers to pour them a drink, and when he pours them a beer, the bubbles give him a flash to the mission, and he sees Daniel yelling for help.
And Teal'c makes a point to say, I must abstain. I don't know if it came up before or not, but does that mean Junior can't process?
That's
Or-
a good point.
Yeah, I mean, he just said it so vehemently. He was like, I must abstain. Like, why? Is this like, did the army base say don't do anything funny? Or is this
Or,
like a
yeah,
is this like a
maybe he
global
doesn't
thing?
know beer and he doesn't want to try it, or he's
I
like
don't-
really strict in his diet. It's not really explored.
I just
It
felt
might
like-
come up later though.
Or maybe the script just said no thanks, and then you know the actor was like, I'm gonna change that. Anyway,
We cut back to Daniel on the planet, and he turns around, and there is a blue alien, some kind of fish-like alien. And he doesn't speak, but he shows him a screen in the wall with writing on it, old Earth writing cuneiform.
which we
Daniel-
call spijkerschrift.
Yeah, because it looks like nails. A
Yeah,
spijker is
we
a
call
nail.
it nail
so-
writing. Don't just.
And Daniel says it's one of the first, or the first form of writing on Earth. And he starts reading it, and it says, "Reveal fate Omoroka."
Which again is not how translations work, but you know, it's
I have
it's TV.
no idea how
It's
to
TV.
read stuff like
It's-
that.
Like even the fact that he gets a name out of that, like I don't know.
The name is actually the most
Yeah,
unconvincing thing, because
exactly.
how are you gonna read a name? There's like no context.
But
context
again,
clues for
it's a
that.
show from the 90s, and I should just give them more leeway.
He doesn't understand what he needs to do or what the sentence means, and the alien gets mad and throws him back.
That's because the alien does the same thing our offspring does, and just repeat the same thing more mad and more loudly, and just assume something is going to change.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at the wake, Jack is playing hockey in the parking lot, and he ends up smashing a window of a car. Hammond runs up to him and asks him what's on his mind, and Jack says, retirement.
Which, he's 40. What do you mean retirement? I know it's the 90s.
He was actually retired when they came to
But
get
he's,
him in the
again,
first episode.
he's 40. We're the 90s so different because we're not retiring until we're 70 at this point.
I think it's just different when you're in the military. You retire from the military.
Ask your friends. Ask your friends.
No, but people do retire from the military at that age, and then they go back to civilian life. They do have to work probably to reach their pension, but I think they will consider that a retirement because you're out of active duty.
Okay, but what would Jack do as a job? We're getting off track.
Yeah, we're
Never
getting
mind.
off track.
Back to Omoroka.
No, Hammond
Hang on,
says
sorry.
he has a job for him before, so he can't go yet, and it's something for his team if he wants to clean out Daniel's apartment since they are practically his family. And as they walk back to the wake, Hammond asks, that's my car, right?
Which he is very chill about this. Like...
And then Jack says, you need to do something about that window.
Oh, man.
And we cut back to the alien planet, where Daniel keeps reading old Earth texts.
But first the alien walks into the room from the underwater
I
scene.
think that's in a later scene.
Really?
Yeah.
Did I just skip stuff?
Yeah, it's 2 scenes later.
I am sorry.
He wants to understand why he is translating these old texts, and the creature actually starts speaking to him in English, and he keeps repeating what fate Amaroka. Omoroka, yeah, I wrote it wrong here. And he gets annoyed. Then he gives Daniel nourishment and a place to sleep. Daniel must tell him what he needs to know or he will die. Yeah, always a good motivator.
Yeah.
Death. SGC is meanwhile is cleaning out Daniel's apartment, and
They're not cleaning out
No,
anything.
they're just picking
fiddling
up
with his
things and
stuff.
putting them back and-
There's not even boxes anywhere.
no,
Like
they're just
like
looking around a little
Carter
bit.
does exactly what I would do. Ooh, a book, and then she starts reading it.
Yes, and it is his diary, and she starts reading some of the things he wrote for Abydos, and I picked up that one of the lines she reads is "I'm never getting paid," which is something that he says in the movie because he thinks he's never gonna get out of there. Tilk finds a game from ancient Egypt and remembers talking to Daniel about it and that they played it together. And meanwhile, Carter walks up to the fish tank and the bubbles trigger another flashback. It's not the first for her, nor for Jack and Tilk. And they kind of all three say that they don't feel like Daniel is dead. They feel like he can walk through the door at any time. And at this point, we go back to the alien planet and the doors open.
Oh, and now, hang on, I have a note for this. No, it was very cool. He walked in from underwater.
Yeah, you can see the water in the door frame,
There's a wall.
And he walks out of that and into the room. And Daniel says he wants to speak to his friends, and the alien tells him they are gone, and that he implanted a memory of his death. And the alien kept only him because he knows history and he knows of Babylon. And Omoroka was his mate, and the alien wants to know what happened to her.
Can I make a point? No. The only thing the alien ever says is, my mate. And Daniel immediately says what happened to her. You know, thanks for that heteronormative assumption, Daniel. Like, I really appreciate it.
I'm not sure they were that forward
I
thinking
know,
in...
but stuff like that irks me. And I know it's the 90s, but, you know, anyway.
Yeah, you've got a point. It's a good point. And Daniel says he doesn't know enough. It was thousands of years ago, and the alien gets angry again.
Yeah. And as much as I riff on Daniel, because I know I riff on Daniel a lot, how good is this actor?
He's very good.
He is so amazing. Like, he was so frustrated in that moment, and he really tried, and he was legitimately, like, upset about his friends and scared that he wasn't gonna get out of there, and like I was really appreciative of.
But all your points about the way he's written are correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like,
but
it's not.
yeah,
It's not the actor.
definitely not the actor.
Yeah.
Michael Shanks is an incredible actor, and he made that role his own. He started off with almost a carbon copy of the now I'm blanking on the name of the actor who played the original, and then just kept developing him further and making him his own. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, back at the SGC, Dr. Fraser has found, well, they did tests on the three, and she found small black spots in all of their brain scans on the exact same position. And she says this might be connected to your symptoms and the way you're feeling. At that point, the gate activates and they just rush out of there into the gate room and they see Daniel stepping out. But after a moment, they realize that it is not Daniel, it is actually SG6. And for some reason, they all three believed that Jackson was returning. Jack wants to ask Hammond to send them back, and at that moment, he gets a splitting headache so bad that he needs to get carried away. On the alien planet, Daniel is looking for a way out, and the creature confronts him, telling him there is no way out. He feels that Daniel is afraid, and Daniel is because he might not know what he wants and maybe can never go home. So Daniel wants more information, like a person Omaroko spoke to. And in the end, the creature says one name, Bellus. And this rings a bell. Daniel recognizes the person, but still needs more information. And the creature doesn't want to let him go because he thinks Daniel serves the Goa'uld. At which point Daniel says, I would never, because they are the race that took away my wife. And apparently Amaroko went to Earth to fight the Goa'uld. Then Daniel says, then we owe her a debt, because Earth had an uprising and they defeated the Goa'uld, and we now rival them in technology. And the creature says, that's all fine and well, but you still have the knowledge in your head. Well, he doesn't really say it, he says you have the knowledge, and then
Grabs
takes his head.
Which, the alien makeup is really good. They didn't
Yeah.
have to go this hard for just a one-off, but they
But
did.
even the costume is
yeah.
really cool.
But they made it in a way that the actor could still very much act, and that's hard to do.
It had a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
So also, it was, I think probably
yeah.
because they only had one, then they could go all out in this one design.
But I mean, we've seen Doctor Who episodes where you just say, like, "Is that a walking potato?" Like, what was the plan here?
It's
Like,
there behind the two pieces of cardboard.
or you can just see them ambling on, like you just know the actors are not seeing anything below their nose, and you're like, "Don't fall over," and yeah.
Back at the SGC, they are playing the sound of waves to try to get them some sort of trance to help them remember, to get to the memories. And Jack is like, it's not working. And he looks at Teal'c, who's like super focused. Like,
I love how Jack's like, "This is never gonna work," and Teal'c is literally like, he's not even saying it. He's like, I love that actor so much.
And he gets flashes of Daniel's death. And all three still have conflicting feelings. They feel he's dead, but they also feel he's still alive. Daniel, meanwhile, wants to know...
No, hang on. Is that not the point where the doctor said, "Have you heard about hypnosis?" Or is that later?
No, that is later. That is, again,
Yeah.
the scene after this one.
Why do you take every single scene separately?
Because I want to have a good recap.
Okay.
So people
Like
who
structure.
listen to my sultry voice will relive the episode in their mind's eye. That's what I hope. I don't know.
Anyway, move on.
Yeah. So Daniel wants to know how the alien got the team to leave. And he says he implanted a memory. So Daniel asks if he can do the reverse. Search his brain. He says he can, but it would make damage. And the alien doesn't want to risk it. Daniel says he does. He doesn't have 4,000 years to search. And the alien says, you may die. But then Daniel says he'd rather die than never see his wife or friends again.
Because he is still very dramatic.
But here I do find it works. He doesn't really mention his wife that often, but it does draw a parallel with the alien.
He's about risking his life. He's a little bit flippant about it. That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They are in the briefing room again, and they are going over the story again and again. So Hammond asks the team, how long do you think you were on your mission? They say half an hour tops, and they all three agree with them. Hammond says, you were away for 4 hours. So they are all very confused at this point. And then there's a second doctor next to Dr. Fraser, and he mentions, have you tried hypnosis?
Which made me, I wrote down, hypnosis, the modern science of the 90s. It was very in.
Yeah, because Dr. Fraser does say like it is a legit scientific, and she starts defending it, and you go like, no, it isn't. It's a parlor trick, but fine.
Yeah, but it was very like popular in a lot
Yeah,
of series for a while.
But then we get Jack, who wants none of it, and he wants to go back. And Teal'c and Carter immediately react. No, we can't do that. And the doctor says this is clearly a conditioned response. So in the end, Carter volunteers to do the hypnosis.
But Carter first asks permission from Jack if she can volunteer. And I thought that was very Carter of her. That she asks her superior first and then volunteers.
They put her under some sort of flashing light and it works immediately. She goes back at first to Daniel's death, but the doctors say, no, you have to go further back. And we see the whole team walking along a saltwater beach. And there is a giant planet with 2 moons in the background on the horizon. Daniel spots something in the water. It's bubbles coming towards them.
And I love how they all just stand at the shoreline and watch it coming towards them. And I'm like, did none of you see hosts?
But also he's like,
what are you doing?
what's that? And takes out his magnifying glass and we see the bubbles. And when he takes it away, it's like right in front of them.
Which, but even if you didn't see any horror movies with mutated monsters coming out of the water, you all know what crocodiles are. Like, why are you just standing there?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, of course, this thing is the alien creature, and it steps out of the water and looks at them in turn, and he even reaches for Teal'c's symbiont, and then steps back.
Which is rude. You never touch a pregnant tummy ever. Okay, like don't do it. Like Teal'c was very.
He was very calm. Yeah.
He was very calm, but I would have smacked you.
I would expect that's a sensitive area, so if someone would just grab that,
he was just like staring, like, "Excuse me, sir."
Yeah. The creature then draws something in the sand, and Daniel, of course, recognizing it as the cuneiform writing, and he writes a response. At this point, the creature throws back the other 3, and next we see them strapped to some kind of table or bed, and there's bubbles, and we see the creature, and then they escape to the surface
and
of the sea.
Teal'c's facials are sending me. They probably told him, all you have to do is lie there and I'm gonna strap 2 bands on your head. And he's like, say no more. But he looks so I love him so much.
And then Carter is the first one to realize that they left Daniel behind. So she jumps up out of the chair, because we're back at the SGC, and O'Neill reassures her they will be going back for him.
Which, is this the first Sam Jack hug that we're seeing?
Might be.
Might be? It felt like,
Yeah, I wasn't really tallying that. I'm sorry.
I thought it was a cool moment because she's obviously upset. For good reason, they left somebody.
And we cut back to Daniel, who is strapped in a weird chair. It's probably the same thing that the others were strapped in. And there's some lasers over his head, and they start scanning him. And Daniel starts talking about Amaroko of the...
Omoroka.
Omoroka? Sorry, I wrote it down like in 4 different ways. Omoroka of the Oannes. And she came from... Or who came from the heavenly egg. And the creature keeps upping the voltage on the machine every time Daniel stops speaking. And she lived on Earth and at night returned to the sea, and he remembers that the god Belus came down and killed her. So Daniel understands that Belus was a Gwauld and that he killed her. And the creature screams in agony over the loss of his partner. Then SG-1 arrives on the beach in their desert outfits again. And
they don't even have scuba gear. Like,
no,
I'm not sure what the plan was here.
They just stand on the shore yelling for Daniel, and then bubbles come up again. Like, it's the same thing from last time.
I'm sorry, but like if we did this in one of your RPGs, you would be like, nothing happens. Like, what were you expecting to happen here? Like,
yeah. But Daniel sees the open door and he moves through the barrier into the water, and it comes up behind the creature.
Which also, I'm sorry, excuse me, Daniel. I'm sure it's fine. This man has no self-preservation. You don't know how deep down
No,
you are.
exactly.
You could have blown out your eardrums. Like, I really feel like Daniel has two modes. Either I'm sure it's fine, or everything is drama. Like, there is no middle ground with this man. It's all one direction, all the time.
So on the beach, the creature is standing among SG-1, and Daniel surfaces, yelling not to shoot. So he says to the creature, you have your answer. So the creature agrees to let them go. Daniel says to him, their people can still be friends. That's why they came there in the first place. And the creature answers, maybe in time.
Which means we'll call you, don't
Yeah.
call us.
He also says that maybe in time Daniel may find the fate of Shari. And then they start walking back to the gate. And they ask what happened and how they found him, and Daniel and how he got out. Daniel says it's quite a long story, and Jack says you can tell it over sushi.
Also, they basically scare him by implying his apartment is empty.
Yeah, they mention his apartment and that there was a memorial service and that Tilk said some very nice words. And Daniel just doesn't believe it, like, really? And that's where the episode ends.
Yeah.
So, final thoughts.
I liked it. It was a good episode. It was a good idea. It was well executed. And again, like, the actors did amazing with what they were giving.
Yeah, I think it's the idea that sells it. It's a really solid idea. It's very original. I think we haven't seen this kind of story yet.
Not yet. Like, it becomes very standard in,
Yeah.
in sci-fi to, like, tamper with memory and toss people back. But it's a really cool idea that they just yanked one of the team out of there and made them forget about.
Also,
how
it develops the world building. We have this new creature that we don't really know who or what he is, and he's apparently tied to the history of Earth and the Goa'uld. So it keeps building it, but it keeps giving us different kind of places, kind of aliens. I think it worked really well. And as you said, we have some great acting all around, actually, from all of them.
I know it was supposed to be serious, but every time Teal'c, his face is just, they keep sending me, like...
Yeah, but I don't mind that it's funny. Like,
No,
it's a
but
bit goofy, but it
Yeah.
works. It brings a lighter tone, because otherwise it would have been a real downer, even though Daniel isn't really dead. So it's a good balance. They managed it well.
I have a very important question. When I say Teal'c's facials, there's an apostrophe there, but there already is an apostrophe there. How would I write that? Because I've been taking notes and I always keep going like, no, I can't put, wait, no, there's too many apostrophes in this word
I do
now.
think you'll have two. You'll have one before the C and one
Be
after.
after the
Yeah.
C? Okay. Spell
think
check.
so.
See, this is why I write by hand, because spell check
Oh
would
yeah,
just be...
it just it has no clue what I've been writing.
Yeah.
Like, what are these words? Wow.
To be fair, sometimes you get actors and they don't know what to do with the word either. So...
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to this. I
No,
think it was
but
really
we-
solid. I enjoyed
we
myself.
intercut a lot of the things that we usually keep at the end.
Yeah.
And by we, I mean me.
So, yeah. I'm looking forward to the next one.
We're officially over half now, right?
Yes.
or in half?
Yes.
In
and,
half, that's not what you
I
say.
think we're going to have a lot to say about the next one. The next one is Hathor.
Okay, you keep saying it like, oh, you're gonna have thoughts about this, like.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you will have. Yeah.
But I already have. I always have thoughts about stuff. That's why. That's
good.
why
Yeah,
I'm sitting
you're,
here.
That's why you're here. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
why
don't
you-
have thoughts. I just read what I write,
No, you have thoughts.
and then I don't remember why I wrote it, so I mess myself up. No, so next one will be Hathor, and I'm really curious how it's gonna hold up, because it was one of those things like, oh, a sexy old lady, cool. When you're 16, that's very cool. It's 2025 now. I don't think it's gonna be that cool anymore. So we'll see about that.
That never mind. I'm not gonna skip ahead.
No,
No.
we'll see. But I am glad we're gonna have some different Goa'uld. Like this one is a woman, which is always nice to differentiate. But I'm pretty sure this is one of those episodes that's gonna be interesting to talk about. So yeah, that's gonna be for next week. So Where do people find you on the internet? If they want to. They don't need to, but if they want to.
You're really selling it. I am on TikTok. Well, I say I'm on TikTok. I haven't posted in forever. As Evie Belknap, I am on Blue Sky, and I am on Instagram.
And you can find me as Arne Keustermans on Instagram and as Erodonian on Blue Sky and YouTube, where you can watch this.
You mean people can see us?
Yes. And by this time, we will also have recorded a bunch of new RPG shows, so they should be coming up in the near future. So keep an eye on the channel. Bye!